Good. Hey, everybody. Welcome. I am Martin Lens Fitzgerald, calling in from Amsterdam. I am part of the System Innovation Network. And there, together with Isaac Riley, Florian, and Mario, who I hope will come, as well as Roma, we run this hub. Um, the hub, which is about governance in system innovation. And this is the second in a series of events that we are running. And we are exploring and seeing what kinds of types of ways of working, methods, theories we have for collective intelligence in democratic governance. So, how do we talk with people? Because maybe it's changing a little bit. We have a white paper, we'll share that link later in the chat, that we published a while ago. And in this series, we hope to maybe eventually also create a paper where we gather all the insights from these talks, these sessions. We previously had Cynthia Kurtz here a little over a month ago, and she might be showing up actually today, although it's early, who talked about participatory narrative inquiry. I think a field and a practice of over maybe 20 years old already, all online, all available. And we like that. We like that a lot. And today we have more of a local flavor of, I wouldn't call it similar maybe, but adjacent would be a better word, which is which is Socratic Design. And that is a practice here practiced here in Amsterdam. And that's what we'll be covering. Before we do so, I'm thinking out loud what else I should mention. If you haven't heard, we are recording this session to share later on LinkedIn or on YouTube so people can rewatch it. So if you do not want to be recorded, please switch off your video and your audio. The session will be for an hour and a half from now, which actually now is an hour and 20 minutes and a little bit over. If you want to ask questions later, please do so, because while running, which is fine, there's no questions in the end because we will be hard at work to make the end in a good way. And we have a great surprise in the end as well. So if you can, you might get something. The session itself will be a lot of listening and maybe also a little bit of thinking and realization and some exercises in your head. So feel free, if you need to walk the dog or want to walk around, you can do so. It's not we don't have any slides or anything. It's really old school, remember, just talking and people. And with that, I guess I opened enough. Isaac, did I miss anything?
Perfect. Well done, Mike.
Thank you. I'm really good at forgetting things or pretending I don't. Anyway, then let me give the floor to Dennis. Dennis, I have known, I guess, for a little over 2 years. I was myself in the city. I was myself in the City of Amsterdam. And he's actually the first employee of the innovation department that I met, because he showed me where to go. And I remember him then telling me about narratives. And I then, coming from an old web marketing background, like, oh, narrative. Oh, I get that. I did that with my startup. I created awesome narratives. But no, that's not what we're going to talk about today, because there are also different types of narratives. So I'm very happy with that rich, knowledge that he gave me already the last year and a half, 2 years almost. And with that, I think the real introduction you can do yourself the best. But warm welcome to Dennis, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Martin. And let me start it. I'm very grateful that you invited me here. It's an honor to be in this line of speakers or these thought leaders about, I think, very important questions that we now face in the world. Yes, so let me start that this session will be about this title, How Amsterdam Listens, Collective Intelligence in Democratic Governance. And a very important dominant method that we're using in the City of Amsterdam is the method Socratic Design. It's a philosophy and a method in the same time. And it all revolves around these huge questions, these huge societal questions. What is a good society, or what is a good existence? And we also follow these questions. What is a good human? What is a human? Or what is good? These are huge questions which are all the starting point of all our projects here in the city of Amsterdam. Because from these huge questions, you can make an analysis about technology, about sustainability, about public transportation. It all starts around this first question: what is a good existence or a good society? And the way we do this is with collective intelligence, we might say collective wisdom. So a lot of our work revolves around dialogues with citizens and civil servants like me together. So this, in a nutshell, Socratic Design. I will talk a bit more about that, but let's start with my own introduction. So my name is Dennis, and I work for the City of Amsterdam. And I always tell people that I'm a civil servant, and I am a father. I'm a father of my son is 6 years old, and my daughter is 3. And if you would have asked me to introduce myself 10 years ago, I would have seen this as totally separate things: to be a father and to be an employee for the City of Amsterdam. But with Socratic Design, I've started to realize that those are actually very the same thing. I don't know if there are any fathers and mothers in the call. I already heard a small child when we're entering this. We're starting at this call. I've come to a realization that to become a father, I had to acknowledge that my 2 children are learning a lot about myself. Those are the mirrors, and they come here in my life to teach me how to be a good human. And as a civil servant, I've come into my work is about facilitating this collective intelligence, is to serve democracy. It's in the word, to civil serve, to serve the society. And then I also come to the realization that to do this right, to be a true facilitator of democracy, you have to also research your own presupposition. How do you look to the world, or to yourself even? And this is what Socratic Design taught me. It's a very personal journey that you come to see that how you perceive yourself, which presuppositions you have yourself, your own personal narrative, as Cynthia Kurt's last session told us. Your own personal narrative is fundamental. How do you do your work? How do you do your parentship? And how do you organize your life? And this narrative makes how we are together. So the narrative for me is, I think, the most powerful thing that human beings have. This is what Socratic Design teaches us, and there's a lot of fields also teaches us, that it enables us to bring ideas to next generations. The power of the narrative makes us to construct pyramids and cathedrals. It makes us put a man on the moon. It's all the power of the narrative. It also has the huge downside we also see in the world today. It also enables us to kill another. It also makes us to organize genocide on a systemic level. It's also the same power of this narrative. And with Socratic Design, we research this narrative. We research it more on a systemic level, on a cultural level, but it also starts in the individual itself. And I hope that in this 90 minutes, I will give you some insight in how this works for yourself, but also how do we use it in the City of Amsterdam to make policy, to envision the future. So I'm going to give you some small little exercises to see if we can be collective together, you might say. So let me start to talk a little bit more about Socratic Design. First, let me say that we're using this actively for the past 7 years now in the City of Amsterdam. And we use it broadly on 2 things. We use it to make visions about the city on all different topics. For example, the vision on AI, we will share it in the chat, has been made by dialogues with Socratic Design methods to make a vision which is how do you say that, being acknowledged by government. In Dutch, you might say the alderman and the mayor, they receive this vision, and it's the vision for the whole city of Amsterdam. So the first part is really a top-down question. The politicians ask for a vision, and we make it by collective wisdom with citizens. The other way that we use it is with this development of city neighborhoods. And it's a longer process. So the starting point here is communities. And communities, and the end result will be new squares, new living areas, new housing, new public functions. And here the angle is not to start with physical infrastructure or physical architecture, as you might say in architectural words, but we start with the social infrastructure, the social architecture. So we organize processes that facilitate dialogues around the question, how do we want to live together? What is a good existence? What kind of values are important? Which kinds of presuppositions are negative for living together? And which presuppositions do we want to acknowledge or embrace for the coming future? This all together is a narrative. So these are the two things that we use in two ways. Now let me talk. Hi, Rosalind. Welcome in this chat.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. It's collective intelligence. So let me talk about Socratic Design briefly. I already introduced it as a philosophy and a method, and it resolves around this question, what is a good existence? And we use it for collective intelligence. You can see Socratic Design as from three pillars or three fallacies. The first fallacy is that Socratic Design shows us that we think, but actually we don't think at all. I will go into it deeper after the second two. The second fallacy is we think that we listen, but it's actually very hard to listen well. And the third fallacy is that we think that we live in reality, but we actually live in a narrative. Now already get into it a little bit. But for this session, I will talk mostly about this first fallacy, this first pillar. Because what we say is that when we follow Einstein, Einstein taught us the problems that we face today, its origin you can find in the way that how we think about a human, how we think about society, how we think about systems. This type of thinking, this old thinking, he might say, or this current thinking, cannot be a part of the solution. And we have to look at our thinking. But then the question arises, what is thinking? And then his next important researcher, David Bohm, came. He was actually a temporal from Einstein. And he came up with the notion of the addiction, the capability, the addiction of thought. Thought addiction is what he came up. And it explains why a narrative can be so tough to break, because we are actually addicted to our thoughts and we are addicted to our narratives. Well, let me explain a little bit about how this works. And this is what Damasio told us, neuroscientists of these times. You can see our body as a lot of neurons in our own, like in our whole body. And all these neurons, between them, there are a lot of connections. And from these connections arrives thoughts, feelings, and emotions. It's the same system. And this system works with a lot of substances, but one is very important, is dopamine. It's a very useful thing. It makes our heart beat. It makes that we're getting hungry. It makes that we want to have a partner. It makes us fight or flee in the right moments. And it has a very evolutionary capacity. It makes us able to learn. So it's a crucial thing. Dopamine is a lot of other substances, but let's keep it simple for now. Let's use the word dopamine. The downside of this system is that although we are very good and very able to learn, we are also very able to get addicted to dopamine. We can use it we can see it around the world in all kind of other things like watching Netflix or cigarettes or whatever. It's the same system. But what David Bohm tells us, we can also get addicted to thoughts and feelings. Now, let's look at this sentence for a moment. So David Bohm shows us that he tells us that if you have a thought which is very strong in your life, which you're very convinced with, you might say it's a very deep assumption, a very deep presupposition, as you might say, something that you don't really question at all about yourself. That thought might be your addiction, and it might be a blockade or a hindrance to become maybe somebody you really want to be. And this is a very important step we're going to make in Socratic Design, is to be curious about what this thought addiction can be for yourself. And I'm going to walk you through a short exercise. If we can see if we can do this together. What I want to ask you is to think about a thought that is returning a lot in your mind or in your body, from which you can feel that it's actually a blockade for you, a hindrance. And I will give my personal experience with it first, but think about it already. When I was 4 years old, my father died in a car crash. And my mother was severely injured and couldn't take care of me for a long time. This has made a very deep impression, a deep rooting in my life. The sorrow was so hard as a child that I could cut off all my feeling. It was you might say, a survival technique. And you see that a lot with people who have lost their parents or have a different situation in their lives. During my lifetime, it was very hard to feel. Sorrow was a bad thing. Feeling was a bad thing. I became a very good rational leader. And it brought me very far. You must understand this presupposition: feelings are bad, rational is good, rational thinking is good. It brings you very far in this world. And there's a lot of leaders right now who are very rational and cannot or will not or are afraid to feel in your body. With Socratic Design, 6 years ago, I realized this, and I also became a father. And my children, they were crying. Not a lot, but they were crying sometimes. And for me, to cry, to share emotion, was a bad thing. So my body responded with flight or freeze. And in very short, I wasn't being able to be a very good father. And on my work, I began to work with civil society. I began to start hosting dialogues like this. And I was afraid for emotion. 7 years ago, I wouldn't be able to ask you this question because I would be afraid for your answer, for your emotion. But if you want to really have collective wisdom, collective intelligence, it's all about sharing this on a more broader or more deeper level, on an emotional level. What kind of human is a good human? It's a feeling human, as Spinoza might say. So with Socratic Design, I come to acknowledge this returning. My addictive thought was, feeling is wrong. I am afraid to feel. I'm afraid to cry. Now I'm going to ask you the question. What thought in your mind is returning a lot during your lifetime or in meetings? And I want to ask you to write it down for yourself, just for yourself. And if you don't want to participate, that's fine too. Then you can just think about this question But try to write it down, this thought. And you can share it in the chat if you like. Yes, thank you. Now, if you look at the sentence that you've written down, or did you share, you might feel that it has an emotional resonance with yourself. And to be honest is already a very human thing. The next step that we take with Socratic Design is try to remember what would have been the situation that this sentence started to revolve in your mind. What happened in your life that might have caused this small child of yourself to make this philosophy. This sentence, this returning thought, is your philosophy, your narrative, which makes who you are, or how do you think you might are. Try to go back to this first time or the situation that this thought was created. And if you see yourself, your small child of yourself, you might understand why this little person of you, you can have some, you might say, in Dutch, you might say acceptance, or you have some begrip in Dutch. It's more like, you know why this small child of you make this philosophy. And what we're doing here, so now I'm returning, look at this. When I'm returning to this in the last part of the session, I will tell you this is what we're doing with all citizens of Amsterdam, this question. Because we give them the realization that this thought is actually not yours. And it was a survival thing to make this thought, but it still is within us. So the next step that I'm giving to you, if you know this thought, create a totally different thought. It might be a positive thought. You can write it down for yourself and create a experiment, a very small habit, how you can test this new thought. This afternoon or maybe tomorrow. And make it a really, really short experiment, which is very easily for you. So, for example, I see this thought, I shouldn't be here. It's a very common thought. I'm not worth that I exist, for example. Then the other way around would be the thought, I'm worth to exist, or I should be here. And think about a very small experiment, how you can manifest this thought in real life. And what I also want to give you is that your mind is so strong that you can actually cancel a thought. And it's a very interesting sentence. Why do I think this? This is what David Bohm would say, proprioception. Proprio is self, and actually to observe your thoughts. Not being of you, but being of this small little you, which is maybe not, it doesn't need to function anymore. And we give the civilians that we work with, we give this all these small experiences, and that way we're changing the narratives. We're making a new narrative for people. And this sounds like an individual exercise, but it's actually a very cultural exercise. As we do these sessions with you, you will feel the thoughts of the other participant, and you say, hey, I actually have the same feeling. You can connect on this feeling. This is what we call collective wisdom. Everybody has sometimes the feeling that you are afraid of something, or that you shouldn't be here, or these are thoughts that are actually very cultural. And what Socrates tells us, know thyself, and you know everybody, right? And it was also in the Temple of Delphi. It says that the culture that we are is actually the sum of all individuals. We are now a culture. And if you change the culture. So if you change a little habit, you're actually changing the other person as well. That's what Dewey tells us. We are actually not a individual human. We are a interaction. So if some of you now have a small positive experiment and you try it on somebody else, you change yourself, but you also change the other. This is how cultural transformation starts, by acknowledging your personal presuppositions, your personal thoughts, transform them to a positive thought or positive habit, and invite other people to be in this culture. This is how cultural transformation works, and this is what we're actually doing in communities right now in the city of Amsterdam. All right, I hope that I might touch you a little bit in your heart. I get a thumbs up of Marta. We're going on the right track. But I will be very honored and very happy if we've made you conscious a little bit about your thinking and how you can transform it and how you can help other people to transform as well. Just make them aware of their presuppositions, and that this presupposition is mostly focused on this addictive thought. It's mostly connected with this addictive thought. And you can point people around it, and you can invite people to be conscious about their addictive thought. You recognize mostly by your colleagues or with your friends, oh, you always think this, But it's rooted on a very crucial thing that happened in their life, and it's part of a cultural narrative that we do not address this. Marty, you want to step in?
I have a realistic hosting thought, and that is that we agreed that I would say that when it's 12:30, and we just passed that.
Yeah, right.
But you're doing great. So I'm loving this, and I hope everybody is.
Thank you. We will make it practical again. No worries. So it's important to feel that it's a feeling experiencing method, which feels you in your heart and in your belly. And also it's rational, but this is the way how we actually work with citizens. So it's the same thing. So to round up the theory part, so part one is the most important. The fallacy 1 is 1. So you think that you think, but you're actually addicted thoughts, as David Bohm tells us, and Einstein points to. The second is about listening. I will not go further on it, but in short, it's very hard to listen. And the reason why is because we listen and we think in the same time. So that's why meetings are so hard. You try to think, and it's very hard to do this on the same time. So what helps you, if you're better in the proprioception of your thoughts, of your own presuppositions, if you become conscious of it, they will be much calmer during your daily conversations and daily meetings. And you're able to listen more. In the dialogues about collective wisdom, we use the dialogue, and in the dialogue we do with the Socratic Design method, if somebody speaks, the next one has to repeat in the same words what the other said. It's a very strong thing, but do it disciplined, always. And you can also use it in your daily meetings, what happens is that the person who first spoke listens his or her words through your body again and listens his own words. And it also helps to slow down the meetings. And it's a very powerful, very professional way to intervene in a meeting by which you know that nobody is listening. Everybody's thinking about their own ideologies or about our own opinions, or the half is just on their laptop or their phone. Just this small exercise, this small intervention is very strong and very much appreciated. And the third one was the narrative. We think that we're living in reality, but all the rest of the cultures, they're living in narratives. Well, it's a completely different way around. We, as I might say, living in Amsterdam, in the West, we live in a very dominant narrative where there's a huge presupposition of economic growth about the human being is a rational individual, which is an economic agent. Well, you know all about this kind of stuff. But we're kind of change this. What we're trying to do is change this narrative, this Western narrative. So that's about the theory of Socratic design, and how I did hope that you experience a little bit. We will now follow up to the next session of the session. I will talk more about how we do this in the city of Amsterdam. And please be welcome to ask questions, Marta. If you want to join in, that's fine too. But I wanna talk about two projects I already mentioned in the introduction. The first one is I can talk about the vision on AI, how it was created. And that's the top-down way that we use Socratic design, and we use it on a lot of domains in the same time. And the second one is the bottom-up, I would call it, where the community actually embraces this method and is trained by this method and use it to research their old narratives, also very post-colonial narratives, which are very, very dominant in our city yet. And how can we create a shared narrative, which is not a ideology, like I think you call it, like if it needs to be there, it's more a vision about how do we live together, more on a daily basis also. Yeah. Maybe first the vision on AI. So let me get back to that. Socratic design revolves around this question: what is a good existence, or what is a good society? I would say, what's a good society? What is a good society? The interesting thing is that because we use Socratic design as a method, as a how, it's quite a neutral method. So you must see, if I'm working in a democracy and in a government, and as a civil servant here in the Netherlands, we are about how. We decide on how. It's a neutral thing, not a political thing. The politicians here in Amsterdam, they are about why and what. So this is very interesting that as a civil servant, I have the power I have the mandate to decide,
decide.
Yeah, to decide. It's such an easy word. Eh? To decide, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do it with Socratic design. We're going to do it with dialogues with society. And this is backed by a very strong wave now in the Netherlands to do everything on a democratic way and a participatory way. So that's this is for us, it's very helpful. Getting back to the good existence, although we're doing on a lot of different domains. So the City of Amsterdam has a lot of topics, a lot of political topics, and every political topic is with an alderman. We call it in the Netherlands wethouder, which is not really good translated in English, but an alderman, I think it's a common thing. So the mayor and a few aldermen, and all these aldermen have their own topics. What we're doing is we're trying to make as many visions or as many agendas or as many policies with this method, Socratic design, as a neutral instrument of society to actually make collective intelligence, collective wisdom, which we directly put into these visions. We can share now, I think, maybe the end of the call, the vision on artificial intelligence has been publicized, I think 2 years ago. It's English, that's nice, and you will read also about the method. So the method is in the vision, which is very groundbreaking. You can read about Socratic design in this method, and this vision is being decided on by our alderman and mayor. So it's the defining vision for all of AI, for a whole city of Amsterdam, also for external companies. So that's interesting. And what we're doing, we're also acting on different topics, but the central question, what is a good existence, is central in everything. So you see that it's very coherent. Although the topics might differ, it might be health, about mobility, it might be sustainability, it might be about food, but the central question is the same. So now we're not looking at a different project where we're doing this. It's actually a big program. I might call it a movement around this question, what is a good existence? And some of you might recognize this movement as humanization, the movement to research what a human is, to become human. And it's also something in Ubuntu, the African philosophy, is to look for your own humanness, to find your own human, your own human being, your own being in the other human. That's also the acknowledgement that we are like intertwined, that our story is a story of interbeing and not a story of separation, as Eisenstein might call us. And so all these different projects on different topics are actually part of this bigger movement of humanization by deliberate democracy, by dialogue. That's the method. This AI vision, you can read it yourself. I think it's very interesting because it's actually not going about technology. It's more about the question what a human is and how should we perceive wisdom at all, or intelligence. It was made it's very briefly made. It's only 6 months. You envision it was like 10 dialogues with more or less 10 participants per dialogue, so more or less 100 people from Amsterdam, and also different age groups. So the youngest group was on a school of 12-year-olds. So envision a circle of 8 12-year-olds, and they were putting the question, what is for you technology? What is for you intelligence? And you can see that by the Socratic Design dialogue, these children are very able to have a lot of wisdom shared together, which is very useful for a vision. It makes it very humane, the vision itself. And we also did it with elderly people, and especially, this is our learning, it really works well when you make a dialogue with shared age groups. It makes people more humble and more willing to talk about or to dialogue about huge stories of their time. So this is really a top-down project. If you look from a bottom-up project, that is very interesting. We will share it now. It's called. It's in the south of Amsterdam. It's called Future Lab. Future Lab is. It's also an English website. It's very nice for you to explore. There's also a Dutch version. It's the English version. Future Lab is this this bottom-up approach, and this is because Socratic Design is part of the City of Amsterdam, but it has always been our ambition to train civilians in being Socratic designers, in being able to moderate their projects with Socratic Design. And we're actually now in the phase that we're being in the implementation phase. So we already have a new economy going. We have civilians who are paid by institutions, not the government, but by other institutions. Their job is to moderate Socratic Design dialogues in communities. And this is really awesome. Here that we see the shift of government being a top-down structure to a government which is a facilitator of democracy, where civilians themselves again ask these huge questions and are paid for it to address the big questions of their time. That can be about technology, can be about health or sustainability, but also questions in their neighborhoods, which are linked together. We saw that in dispersal narratives. The fear that is still very, the emotional fear, the emotion not to belong in a neighborhood, is connected with pre-colonial times, but it's also connected with our Western narrative. It's full of fear, full of the anxiety that we're not able to share in times of hardship. That's individualism in the nutshell. We think that we are alone with our resources, we think we don't have enough. That is the idea of we don't have of scarcity. It's all built around the thought of fear that when we need it, we won't get it. And you see that in all our projects, but especially in a community project, we address this fear. A fear that you cannot trust the other person to help yourself if you need it. Martin?
I have a question here from Janneke. How are participants invited?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Good question. Very good question. Let me answer it very well. The easy question is that we do a lot. We spend a lot of resources in campaigning. So, for example, we did it on mobility. It was an assignment of the alderman of mobility. She asked us, give me a vision on mobility, but then from the voice of the citizens. And we wanted to do this in all parts of the city. So we were like 7 parts. And we just make a huge campaign, online and physical campaign. So there were like in all the libraries, there were like this A4s and just like this. This takes a lot of time to make a representational list of participants. But the other thing is, we also pay them. Yeah? I think this is very important notion that we have a policy that we are able to fund people to participate. It is 25 euros an hour that we're giving people to participate. It can be a session of 2 hours, maybe longer. And how they're invited. Just everybody's welcome. That's radical inclusion, as we say in the Burning Man. It's a bit like frowned upon now, but radical inclusion is good. So everybody's welcome, and we do spend some time on making sure that the representation is leveled. So we know it's very easy to reach people with above 60 because they have free time. We do know it's very easy to reach people who are, well, from a Dutch, culture. We need to do more time to reach young people, especially around 20 or 25, and especially if they have a post-colonial background, we need to spend more time. But because I already told that this is a movement. This is not a project. I'm already committed here for 6 years. I will be committed on it my whole life, I think, because I really love it. We are starting to become a community of practice. So we have a lot of people now. I told you we have citizens which are now having a job in this movement. They are what we call the new civil servants. They have this huge community. If you do the link of this Future Lab, you already see it's not from the government anymore. There are a few influencers on this in this, and they do a lot of things on TikTok, Instagram, platforms that we're not even allowed to enter as a civil servant. They're really in society, but Socratic design is not the question. That's the connecting of us all. So that's very interesting. So that's how we don't do any selection. Everybody's welcome. It's more like about do we have enough people in the room? That's still something that we work on. So just go around the questions, Martin.
Well, I have one for you to go back to the AI vision. I think everybody is well aware of quality level of attention in the world to this subject matter. And what to me was so refreshing is that you did not listen to the people who are so dominant in their expression, yet talk to the civilians, the people on the street, if you will. And so my question, just to give you a little bit of a flavor of what comes out of this process, can you maybe recall or give some highlights that you personally really appreciated that came out of it, the quotes and stuff?
Yeah, well, if you're interested, if you download this PDF, it's full of quotes. So to make it humane, so you can read the quotes. It's English, so it's nice. You can also do it Dutch, and you can see the quotes. And if you what for me was very satisfying is that most participants, or like many participants, did had a very accurate feeling about how technology should not influence their thinking. So that was so people were actually, there is like this line of thought that civilians, they don't care about their technology. They're addicted to all these platforms anyway. They don't know about. It was the other way around. If you organize a dialogue with collective wisdom, people are very aware about the effects of technology on their thinking, about the autonomy of a human being, and the ability to think yourself about values, about what is important, what do I not want to think, and they're very aware. So for me, that was very insightful. This was very one interesting thing. It's actually not funny because it's actually very sad. We have neighborhoods which in government, and this is very a bad thing, but we have the perception that it's a poor neighborhood, right? You also in every city you have these neighborhoods which are addressed as poor, and we need to help them, and this kind of thing as a civil servant. What I find interesting is that one participant, and we remember clearly, she told us, for me, it's wrong that my data is not included in my data sets. Now my my stake is not being represented in the data. A very different thing. So you say it's a totally different way around. So people also told us that data is crucial now for policymaking, but now my stake is not being run because I'm imaged wrongly in the data sets. Well, it's these insights you cannot conceive as a civil servant. But most quotes are going about the effects of technology on humans and how it should be and how it not should be. So you can read it for yourself. There's not many quotes. They're like the dark blue printed cursive quotes.
There's a link in the chat. Rosalind, would you like to ask your question in real life on Zoom?
I really feel like a boomer now, but I can't figure out how to turn on my camera. So then we'll just have to do it like this. Okay. I was wondering, so I'm really impressed with what you tell us, Dennis. Thank you. But after these dialogues, or when these dialogues take place, then how do you do the translation from the outcomes of the dialogues into this vision? Who is making the selections? How is that done in a epistemic, justified way?
Yeah, and this is of course one of the huge problems. So let me first give a philosophical answer. Collective intelligence or collective wisdom is actually a democratic experience. It has nothing to do how you translate it into text or visions. That's also what Spinoza tells us. An idea is a active thought. And if we translate it to collective intelligence, an idea might be a shared thought, like the interaction we're having right now. A thought that is actually in our mind on the current situation by being together with other beings, the story of interbeing. But then again, also we are living in a social democracy, and we need to have these written things, and we have to decide on it. And we have a representative democratic thing that also has its value for sure in these times. So the translation is the easy answer on your question is, for example, if you do vision on AI, there is a team that writes this vision, and those are civil servants, and they write it, and they are also the moderators of the dialogue. So maybe this is a crucial thing, that we do not separate research, the dialogue research, with the writing team or the policy team. They're actually the same. So the civil servant who has this own bodily experience with children of 12 and elderly of 70, this civil servant also writes it. This is important, because mostly this research and the research team is being cut off from the writing team, and then a lot of different stuff happens in this gap. So that's one thing. But we just make a literate text about these dialogues. We also put them online. We can share them. You can read all the literate dialogues anonymously. There's no names in it, and we translate it into a text. So that's the easy part for a vision document, right? For a vision. If you're looking to the project of Future Lab, it's a whole different game. It's more about emerging. So we're doing a lot of dialogues. People are doing a lot of personal narrative inquiry. And from this chaotic process, a design develops of a neighborhood. You can see it on this link of Future Lab. You see, if you click on this movie, I think it's the first movie, it's a few minutes. This, the process from dialogues and sessions like this what we did just an hour ago, a personal inquiry, personal narrative inquiry, it evolves into a design. But sure, there is one guy who designs it, there's one girl who, of course, there's all like personal task in it, but we try to keep this collective intelligence, we try to facilitate or maybe cultivate this collective intelligence during this process all the time, especially on the community level.
And does that also mean, does that mean that the participants in those dialogues, for instance, the Future Lab dialogues, do they reflect on the image or the map that is being drawn up by the civil servants, and then it changes?
They're doing it themselves. The design that you see on this with it's like a 3D movie. They made it themselves. The participants of the dialogues make the designs for their own city, for their own neighborhood. Yeah, that's quite
literally. They're literally drawing and creating.
Yeah. Look at the movie in the link.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
It starts with very ugly buildings, but that's but if you watch 5 seconds later, then the new buildings show. And there are a lot of movie content about this process, about from dialogues, from vulnerability, about are you able to put in words for a group where you're afraid of? This vulnerability. We call it this collective intelligence, collective wisdom. From this feeling, from this sharing of emotions, what Cynthia Kurtz also told us, emerges a new positive narrative with hope, with a different view of a human body. I'm not a rational, fearing guy, but I'm a social human being. And if you acknowledge these narratives, this presuppositions, what kind of neighborhood would you design? How would a square look like, or how would a building look like? But more importantly, how do we interact with each other? What kind of new economic jobs will you envision in this neighborhood? What is culture anyway, and how do we cultivate it? What kind of new traditions should we make? Now you see that different cultures, like for example in the south of Europe, and also in South America, you have a lot of cultures, like a lot of habits, which continue very important societal values. To be together, to make these towers of humans, and this great party where people throw tomatoes to each other. These look like very funny things, but underneath these cultures is a very strong societal vision, societal values. So we also design these kind of things. So it's
fascinating.
Yeah, Maarten.
I have another question for you here. So coming from 5 years of experience within the government, loving the hierarchical, mechanical, modernistic structures who are not really into change, how the hell have you created room for this? Yeah. Why is this possible? How?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it's well, first of all, we had a very a short question is that we have a few sponsors in our organizations. People with power who are ambassador of this. They were able to finance our movement for during the most vulnerable times. But now we are getting out of this phase. Now a lot of aldermen ask for these kind of projects, and now we're funded from more separate parts. So now it's easier, and we have now a track record. We have a track record, a solid track record that we see that we can make visions and we can do huge projects with the power of collective wisdom. So we don't have to prove ourselves. It's not an idea anymore. It is something which is actually cheaper also and more humane and more faster even. Not every project, I must honestly say, but so I think we're also how did we make room? Yeah, that was all the the different skills that you need to bring a new idea into an organization. It's about sponsorship. It's about telling the right story. It's also about finding other people to be ambassador. And what I hope I already did with you, with you, is that our transformational strategy, we call it in Dutch the veranderkundige aanpak. The transformational strategy is to change the thinking of the other. And if you did it once, you don't need to do it anymore. So as soon as somebody in the organization grasps this, hey, this is something which I was actually looking for now. I understand the world on a more deeper level. I understand my work. I understand myself. And now I have the tools to actually change this, my surroundings. And we do facilitate this with a lot of training, a lot of intervention and so. Then this movement will grow in the organization. And we're already around. It cannot be stopped anymore, because if somebody changes, he cannot change back. He cannot fall back in his old way of thinking. So the change is permanent. And this person will be able to change the other. But I hope you will do tomorrow as well with somebody. So the problem is quite a slow way of changing, because it goes from individual to individual, but it cannot go back. So every soul that is being won in Dutch is one for the movement. And so that's how we make room, one by one. But also just funded with real projects, with real but it's still vulnerable still. So to answer your question, Martin.
And I have so many more, but it's not just my stage, because I think Ken has a question, if you are willing to do it on stage.
Oh, yeah, I don't mind. I won't, well, I've got a video on as well. So it doesn't matter. Maybe that helps. Hi, Dennis. Thanks very much. It's really super interesting.
I see you.
Hi, Martin. We meet again. So, yeah, super interesting. Thanks for sharing. This is terrific. So pleased I joined. There's a couple of things. I think across all these different neighborhoods, of course. How do you have any interesting kind of observations or learnings from sort of the cohesion, identity, while still maintaining, like, allowing for diversity of all these individual neighborhoods and remaining that across the whole of Amsterdam, and then also game theory and like repeated games, how that kind of comes into your processes.
Yeah, I can first answer your first question. Our experience still now is the past 6 years is that most citizens are really embracing collective wisdom. It answers to a human view that we are social human beings and we actually need to be with each other. We feel more human when we are together. So it doesn't really matter where we're doing this. Everybody, if you moderate it well, everybody already acknowledge the value to have a democratic dialogue about any topic, about their own fears or about sustainability. It doesn't matter at all. It is very needed in this time. Hannah Arendt already shows us that we are actually afraid because we are missing our community. This is how fascism starts, right? Just separate the individual and lock them up with their own fear and their own issues and their own anxieties. And this is how a leader can jump up and say, no, it's their problem. They're the issue because of you're afraid. It's the other way around. We miss a lot of community of practice. And this is what we facilitated. So that's why it's so easily accepted by communities. It's what we're doing all our lives, as a human being, we're sitting around campfires and discussing major topics for the generations to come. This is what we're doing. This is what we make us human, to talk about and reflect on thinking and our values. So it's very coherent. It doesn't really matter where. Of course, the initiative, like the cause to enter a community, can be different, for sure. And that differs a little bit, but most of all, the current it doesn't matter, and it also doesn't matter with age groups. Is that an answer for your first question, Ken?
That's good. Okay.
Yeah. Then the second question for me, it's a bit difficult to answer because I am a little bit aware about game theory. Can you just give me a few points, a question which has more in depth about the game theory? What more concrete question?
It's really like how it's kind of the payoffs that people have between their kind of interactions and the behavior changes once it's like a repeated game. So really, I
Right.
think that like the foundations of almost for me, I kind of could interpret it as like communities change because you know you're going to see that person time and time again, right? Then the behaviors change because the game
Yeah.
changes. Basically. It's like
Yeah.
that's one way of interpreting
Yeah.
it, really.
Yeah. Well, I think you give the answer to your own question, but yes, of course. So what we're doing, we're trying to facilitate this collective wisdom, and this is the coherent thing. And when people come back, the retention is really, really high. So people come back because they shared this. Wow, this is something that we never do in our. Some people really come with a big epiphany for, oh, now I know myself, and I did that, and I was able to share with different people. Retention is really high, and then the game theory really starts to kick in. People are trying to talk about it. People come back, and so the movement can spread very easily, especially when it's being facilitated by neighbors themselves, people who are living in the same area and neighborhood. Then it's really trusted. Now, in Amsterdam, and it might be in more capitals around the world, we have a very disadvantage when we're entering a community because we're very distrusted as a civil servant. So our strategy is more, our game theory is more, train citizens to facilitate democracy for their neighborhoods. That's our game theory. Is it more? Yeah, I'm now curious about game theory, but
yeah, no, I think for me, it's like it's quite important to understand that these could drive automatically people's behaviors, right, based on this kind of.
Well,
but I think it's a discussion for another time, maybe. But to
go into behavior, because you would notice in this little smart exercise that we did do, it's all about behavior.
Yeah.
And you can do it too. So you can make people conscious about their thinking with proprioception, and then the behavior will change. We'll invite people to make an experiment of behavior. Habits.
It might be worth maybe looking into this to add into your into your processes.
Maybe if we do understand each other right, in Rotterdam they did a similar project. It was not done with Socratic Design, I will tell you, but there were like similar things. There was a poor neighborhood which was manifested as a poor neighborhood. I'm most interested, right? And they did this kind of this series, and one of the habits that they invented is now it is obliged to greet each other on the street. And what it does, it acknowledges with the Ubuntu philosophy, I see you as a human being. Ken, I see you. Hello, Ken. Hello, Dennis. This small behavioral intervention changed the neighborhood within weeks. And it was adopted as a normal habit, as a human habit. This is how we live together. A very easy intervention, which encompasses a whole different view of a human or as a society. Is this what you're aiming at with your game theory question?
Slightly different, but I think we'll connect another time and discuss.
Okay.
Thanks so much. It's super interesting, Dennis. Thank you. That's great. Yep. I'll pass it back on to someone else now. Thank you.
We have 15 minutes. I can't count. It's almost 1:10, Dennis. I don't know what else is on the program, or I mean, I do a little bit, of course.
Well, let's do the questions. I think that's an interesting part because I see one other. I don't know if you know it right. Giolio. Civil servants are invited and paid. Yeah, citizens are paid. Civil servants do have their paycheck, so they are paid. But it might be a small detail, but I think it's a very important detail that in the Netherlands, especially, we have asked society to step in and to be participant in policy making, but a lot of citizens were tired of joining these kind of dialogues or these kind of processes because it didn't make any effect, and we only reached a very small part of society. We call them the usual suspects in Amsterdam, the people who already show up on these meetings. And this was a very common phenomenon. And then a policy was made a few years ago that we were able to pay a small amount, but which is still enough for people who are, for example, in a welfare system to pay for their, the childcare, for example. So 25 euros an hour is actually quite a lot for people in welfare situation, and it helps a lot to broaden our to have a more representational group.
Hey, Dennis, I was wondering, how can one grow or add to the movement? I mean, what are your thoughts? Where is it happening?
Yeah.
How can one put it into their city, in their neighborhood? How to propagate?
Yeah. We will. Well, there is a little surprise, Martin. I will not tell. But the reason that I'm here is, of course, with a agenda. It is my hope that after this call, I will have some connections with different people, different cities around the world, to share and to share experience about how we do this. But I also my purpose is being fulfilled if in one city of this call, this movement will also start. And I have some resources to do this. So innovation is about spreading thought, making it open source, as I say in the IT world. But I truly believe in it. Like this methodology should be for everybody in the world to do. It's actually not very hard. It does need some training, but it is. We train civilians actually pretty fast. It only takes a few weeks. And not like full time. So my purpose is really to start a more like a training connection with people around the world, and hope there will be more dialogues in connection with policy making, or just in connection with, can be for any type of institution or organization, to share this ability to do collective wisdom, to do collective intelligence. And the next thing is that my experience till now is that our collective wisdom is very coherent around the city. Could it be that we're tapping into universal wisdom of the human? And can we show that how we perceive ourselves, what a good human view is, or a world view, is actually quite coherent in between humans around the world? That might be a very strong narrative point. All kind of leaders, they propose a kind of narrative which is quite toxic and quite violent. Can we make a narrative built from collective wisdom where citizens around the world say, yeah, this is our narrative, and this is how we perceive what a human is or a good society is? I think this is very strong. I think this is very needed. I also believe there are a lot of projects and programs already around the world who are actually trying to do this. So I also want to humbly connect with these programs. I don't want to own this. I want to make this more, because it also makes my work much easier. If I say, yeah, I've spoken with 100 people, 100 civilians about AI, of course it helps, but it helps much more if I can talk to our sustainability department. Yeah, I have like 5 projects now around the world. We spoke with 1,000 civilians in 10 cities, and they look at about health or sustainability or food structures this way, and it's coherent, it's universal, because it's built up from this universal wisdom. Who can deny this? It is a bit about the Renaissance cities. The Renaissance is a very difficult world in Socratic Design. Renaissance also had this negative influence on how we perceive the world. But Renaissance is also about rebirth, the Renaissance of the cities of Europe, to actually step into the moral game again. To propose a positive narrative for the world, or for Europe first. From cities like capital cities in Europe, but also small municipalities of Europe. So I'm also looking for a connection here. But why border it with Europe, Maarten? Let's think big. Let's think about international, trans-European things. Yeah,
and love to help. And let's unpack that present now, Dennis.
Yeah.
Can you unpack the present now?
Wow, unpack the present. Sure. Yeah. For those who want, and everybody who's not in this call, I organize a free training, 3-hour online, like this, a bit longer. It's on what date did we did?
I'm looking too. What did we decide?
But it's
17th. On the link. Let me click.
On the link. Let me look at this. Yeah, the 17th of June.
Thank you, Isaac.
On a Wednesday like this. Yeah, 9:30 European time or Dutch time. But let's do this an experiment, and I want to offer this more frequently, because I truly believe in the international movement. It's a free training. It will be like this, but less about projects, more about the ability to change your own narrative and to change it for others. or with others, to give you some capacities to do it in your own organization, and try to find in which way you try to find sponsorship in your own context to make this movement stronger. Everybody's welcome. It's Radical Inclusion. It's free, and yeah, I hope I will see you there.
Good. We got some reactions. Very good. I'm just looking at the questions. Roger Duck, would you mind asking your question live?
Certainly. Thanks very much. This has been wonderful. Thank you, Dennis and Martin. So, Dennis, you said that as a civil servant, you were able to choose the method, the how. But what methods other than Socratic dialogue or Socratic design were considered, and how and why did you end up choosing that approach?
Good question. I see that there are many more methods which are quite similar or do more or less the same thing. Well, you know Martin, and you for sure know systemic design kind of principles like the Nora Bateson movement. I think they're doing more or less the same thing. I think it has some connections with deep democracy, with design thinking. But there is, I think, one thing that Socratic design makes it unique is that it reflects, it invites us to reflect on our thinking and to change it on a personal level and on a collective level and on a cultural level and on a city level. And we have very practical instruments to do it. The dialogue, the personal researcher. So I'm now in innovation for over 10 years in the City of Amsterdam. I've seen many methods. They all have their value, but this method is the only method which was able to grow on a level that is giving true value for citizens. It has given me true value because now I'm being a better father. It gives citizens value because they also being free from their addictive thoughts, and people are becoming more happy, not only in being part of a dialogue, but also after, if they're starting their own research on their own personal narrative. This is not for me, not as a salesman to talk about this, but this is the only method I've seen that changes people, truly changes people. I think Nora Bateson also tries to do it. I think Cynthia Kurz also tries to do it, but I'm not really familiar with her work. Yeah, but deep transformational methods, and there are more for sure.
Can I just comment on a method that changes people? I mean, it feels to me like a method that enables people to change themselves with others, which phrasing is very different. It has a very different tonality. I think when you say it changes people, you mean it enables people to change with others, change themselves with others.
Roger, you I think that better put it in words. Yeah, exactly this. Yeah, it's exactly this. Yeah, the collective wisdom is a very powerful aspect of these transformations.
It's probably, I mean, just to comment on that, compared with, because I'm a trained warm data host.
For the win.
And I think my sense is that warm data processes have even less explicit intent about them, which is probably a distinction. I need to go and think about that a bit more.
Well, Roger, very shortly on the whole series, basically that's the spectrum. So I wanted to start with warm data almost, and then slowly move to, this is almost to the middle, I think, and then end up with the democracy next type deliberation. So that is very close to the institutional powers and very, but now I'm so positively confused during the exploration because this is also so close already, Dennis. So,
Roger,
very spot on, Roger.
Yeah, what we're trying, we're trying to start a Nora Bateson warm data group also in the City of Amsterdam, because I see a lot of nice complementary parts.
Yeah.
So I'm really welcome. It grows a little bit slower. That's another question, but I think they're very compatible. They can be intertwined in the session, but they can also be more serial designed. First the warm data, then or the different way around. I haven't had a project yet. We were close to start with warm data and then continue it with dialogues.
That would be great. I mean, you'll then get people, throwing rocks at the Socratic dialogue method because it opens up, gives you bigger space to think and feel in.
Yeah. I'm very open up to continue this conversation because I really want this. I truly believe it makes it more stronger to have more methodologies in your reach. I think it makes it stronger.
Okay.
So we're coming up to 10 minutes before the end, people. So who has profound, easy, fun remarks, questions? I mean, please take the stage.
Well, if nobody does, I do.
Oh, and Nina also raised her hand.
Oh, sorry. Somebody raised their hand. Okay, I don't see that.
That's okay. Well, let's start with Nina and then you do you, Harold, if that's okay.
I actually did that by mistake. I'm sorry.
Oh, well then, that's a great interruption, though, just doing it. Well, Harold, your road is paved, we say in Dutch.
Yeah, Dennis, thank you for this, what is it, talk, introduction, whatever, exploration. What keeps popping up in my mind is scale. And usually scale is interpreted as copying something identical to all places in the world. But I think we need methods that scale while there's a variety of contexts. So I think what we need is methods that are able to scale in values and not so much in content. And I think that's a bit of the difference between Socratic design and what Cynthia is doing. The ability to share stories and learn from stories from places where the values are the same, like you said. A lot of people have the same image of what it is to be a good place, but the context might be very different. So if you can uphold the values but change the narratives, the local narratives, then you have a scaling system that can where the community could be 8 billion people.
Yeah.
And as one of my fitties with Nora Bateson, who claims that you can't capture warm data. Well, I've been doing that for 20 years, so I'm pretty sure you can. If you ask all the participants a story, what's your underbelly feeling about the situation you just told the story about, you get very, very powerful warm data that is transportable around the world. And you can have tens of thousands of people participating in story sharing.
True.
Yeah.
I totally concur. What break for Martin?
Yeah, just a short break. Thank you, Harold. I know you. So there is a question in there, Dennis, and definitely a response. While we'll do that, running up to the end of the session, please start putting in your feedback, your reactions to the session so that we can learn from it. And because I don't want to lose either the answer or response from Dennis, as well as your response to the session so we can learn from it. Thank you. Go ahead, Dennis.
So what's that? Yeah, to answer Harold, right? Mm-hmm. Can you maybe elaborate more about, because I'm very fascinated about this sentence, the scale in values? Because I'm honestly looking for a way how this methodology could scale easier or grow easier. So what would be your advice, Harold, for me?
Well, if you allow for asynchronous story sharing and you ask the whole city to share stories about whatever, if it is AI or healthcare or whatever, and you ask stories about the values they experience in the care or during the then you have a universal language for the whole city, while the variety of contexts and the variety of experiences through the stories. And I think that's what Cynthia is doing.
Yeah, and that's really good, the power story. And I also believe that I think what Socratic Design, in my experience, is different is that these stories are being researched collectively, and that is a scaling issue. And also to moderate these sessions well, to facilitate them, it requests or it asks some training. So yeah, I'm a bit with a scaling issue, but because it's also about competence. But then again, I also see that a lot of humans do have the ability to from nature have the ability to facilitate dialogues and to facilitate with just a few toolings to facilitate narrative change. I haven't looked into the work of Cynthia very well, but if I look at from a distance, I see that she finds stories in which there are very good values. We do acknowledge that the story of people are also ingrained with the narrative of Western society or post-colonial society. So we do actually invite people to transform or research their story collectively and make a story anew for a community or for a neighborhood. This transformational thing it takes facilitating, it takes time, it takes organization, it takes a lot of preparation, but then the transformation of the narrative really starts. So we do say that some narratives, some stories of people, there are their narratives, their stories, which are value in itself, but we do say they also manifest, or they don't really change the narrative which is dominant, by just sharing your own story.
I think we shouldn't spend too much time on this and maybe have a talk afterwards, because I think Martin and I are trying to introduce a new novel way of looking at warm data might be the key to your problem.
Yeah, sure, fine. That was the purpose of my call. This is the next step. Yeah.
Well, with that, we have 3 minutes left. So thank you, Harold, and everybody else for the questions, the attention, but mostly Dennis. I think, okay, now it's 24, but I think I've had the least loss of participants ever in a session here. You were able to, and I hope you get a drink, because if we were physical, I would have given you some water at least, because you're monologic. Anyway, it was so strong and thrilling and engaging and useful, and everybody, I think, shares this somehow. We all learned a lot, and I love the fact that you have changed us maybe a little bit, and you already did with me, you know that, because I had the training already. But wow, and I've never seen you speak about it as such, because I always heard it through other people, and so also very, very appreciative for that. For everybody else, feel free to answer the questions. I put them in the chat. So what is your feedback on the session? What did you like? What would you like to be changed? What is the preference for a next speaker or method or otherwise around collective intelligence in democratic governance? I already talked about Democracy Next as something for us to explore. We were looking, we still, of course, have to produce everything, but we're looking at month and a half for the next session. As I said, also, we're looking across the spectrum, going from warm data to P&I, participatory narrative inquiry. Yes, you can say that quickly. To Socratic design. Is that in the middle? Is it more towards the institution? But yeah, where are we at? And maybe there's up and down. Or anyway, there's lots of dimensions to explore. So feel free to add that feedback, add some tips. Maybe Isaac, if you're still up. Yes, you are. Hello, Australia, by the way. Please add the white paper for people to read that, how we started this. So this was a great session. Again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Isaac, for your help, of course. This will be published on YouTube later. Follow us on LinkedIn, or me, or Dennis, whoever. And so you can watch it back. I also make a summary. And later, the whole series will be wrapped up in a report with insights. And Oh, I didn't write it up, but I'll get it later from the video. There were some really, those pattern observations, Dennis. I think there's something about that, the universal patterns. And also I wrote that down myself. It's not about scaling really, it's about growing and being diligent on that and not pushing it, but having it grow. That's such a different constellation to looking at it, which is so needed now. With that, I'll just try to shut up, which is not something I easily do. Also, thank you, Roger. Of course, a lot of warm data people here, so I like that. Nora for the win. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Have some water. Have a great walk in at least sunny Amsterdam. I don't know how it is with you. And we'll then stop this session.
Thank you very much. Bye now.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Janneke. Apart.
Thank you all.
Bye, dankjewel.
See you. Bye bye.
Dankjewel, Dennis. Tot binnenkort.
Dat denk ik zeker.